Hey friends, it's Stephanie Liu, and welcome to Showrunner Secrets from the Set Season 2, where I teach you how to turn browsers into buyers. What? All right, cool. Oh my goodness. How is everyone doing? I am doing well. I am coming live from Panama City. Can you let me know if you can hear me? Because obviously the studio looks different. Paul Duncan is here. Paul. Okay, look, I don't even have my sound effects. So, for those of you that are tuning in, I always ask you, like, hey, where are you tuning in from? And I am broadcasting live from Panama City. Yes, in Latin America. And so that is why the studio looks different. So, Paul, if you could hop in, let me know if you could hear me just fine. That would be amazing. Cool. All right. So, hey, friends, this is the final episode of Showrunner. Live selling strategies, tips, and tricks for you to take your business to the next level when it comes to being a live selling producer. And I'm excited about this video because we have been talking about the evolution of live selling for quite some time now. And now it comes down to the point of how we are actually going to price out your services. So that's going to be really amazing. Oh, hey, look, Paul says if you got a question. Okay, great. Yeah, Paul says that he could hear me. Yay. Okay, cool. Put that over here. Yeah. Okay, see, I brought my MacBook Air with me to Panama City. And if you're not following me on Instagram, I was like, look at my state-of-the-art setup. I found like a fruit bowl. I found a fruit bowl. I've got like my Elgato mic sitting on top of like a towel on my lap. So it's a whole different thing. Mr. Camera Junkie, Luis, so good to see you. All right. So as I said before, we have been talking about live selling production services. And one of the reasons why, I don't even know if you know this, but one of the reasons why I'm here in Latin America is because I held an all-day workshop for one of my clients, global multinational brand. And in Latin America, they're really, really interested in learning about live shopping. They have other business units in China that have taken advantage of live shopping, and they wanted to learn, okay, what is it about live shopping? How do I prepare for all the different things? And P.S., by the way, if you've been watching Showrunner, you're already like ahead of the game, right? So it was really fun to just kind of show them the different ways that you can leverage live shopping. We talked about Amazon Live, TikTok Live, Instagram. Oh, I even showed them the press and sell event that we did last week with the Facebook Live shopping. How many of you showed up for that? I think, Paul, did you get like a muscle shirt? I'm excited for that. Okay, cool. Let me take a quick look at the comments and see, because one of the questions that we had was, can we get an update on the release of the live selling version of VSM on today's show, please? I will most likely have that ready for you tomorrow. Just a quick heads up, I gave beta access to Anna and Doc, and I think even Katie. So I'm like waiting for their feedback. So as soon as the crew gives me feedback, then I'm like, okay, cool, I could send this out there. But so far, it's been a lot of good reception from everyone that has seen it so far. Paul say, yep, you have to send us a photo. I think Katie said that you have to use Ecamm Fam, and then when you do that and you blow it up, then it shows up on the Ecamm website. Good? All right, so let's go ahead and get started, because what I have for you today is the live selling event or the live selling calculator, pretty much. And if you got this for free in season number 1, I just now updated it this morning to talk about live selling production. Cool? All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me get all fancy with this. I don't even have my stream deck. This is like old school Stephanie live streaming back in 2017. This is like, oh, here we go. Look at me tapping on stuff. All right, okay, so if you haven't seen this before, this is the live streaming event estimate. This is pretty much, if Katie hasn't sent this out to you, she'll most likely send this out to you after the show. But let me show you how this starts off, yeah? So on the very first tab, well, actually, let me back up a bit. When you get access to this file, please notice at the very top, it says getting started. Download a copy of the live streaming estimate by going to file. So you go to file, download. You can download this to Microsoft Excel if you want to, or if you want to keep it in Google Spreadsheets, just go ahead and click on make a copy, and then you'll have your own copy, which means down the line, if you wanted to go ahead and swap out the Showrunner logo, put your own thing on there so that way your internal team and you can figure it out, then you're all good to go. And yes, Katie and the crew is saying that if you're registered, you should have gotten the link to this file among the freebies. Look at you. See, I'm telling you, Ecamm fam, we like to take care of you and do all the things. Okay, so having said that, this very first tab is absolutely instrumental. The reason for that is because this is where you're going to start identifying the roles within your production company or your live selling producer services, yeah? The first one, which we talked about before, is your scene switcher. If I were to define that for you, your scene switcher is pretty much the one that is just like, oh, okay, scene 1, scene 2, pretty simple, right? There's not a lot of strategy behind it. More or less, it's pretty much just making sure that the run of show is going the way that it needs to. The second position is the producer. And the producer can be the scene switcher, but also like managing the back channel when it comes to the client as well as the talent. That's how I would put it in my brain. The executive producer is kind of like you're zooming out of it. You oversaw the entire production. You put the pieces together, but you don't necessarily need to be there in the weeds of it. Yeah. And then your strategist is even like zoomed out of that and pretty much thinking of when you're doing a live selling production event, you're thinking of the pre-promotion beforehand, how the production is going to look like, sound like, the graphics, on-camera coaching and talent. Like you're putting that whole entire strategy together, okay? Now, when you look at the rate is really up to you in your geographic region as far as what makes the most sense, okay? So I put in here scene switchers probably like $35 an hour. This is very helpful for me because I've actually reached out to people before when I said like, hey, I need like a second person. I'm already developing this strategy. I just need you to help like switch the scenes because it's a simple production, right? And when I say simple production, it's just like you're going to bring someone on the screen. You're going to do like a video recording because they're trying to record a webinar or a course or whatever. Pretty simple. You just hit record. You're good to go. Producers, on the other hand, I've seen this price range kind of go from $80 to $150 with the people that I've reached out to. Again, you could reach out to the Ecamm fam and see whoever works within your budget. If you're not leveraging the resources and the relationships that you're building in the Ecamm fam, you're definitely missing out on an opportunity. Executive producer and strategist is pretty much where I hover in between. So think of this as like, these are the rates and these are the things that you're doing. The thing is that even if it's you that is doing all these different roles, I generally like to pitch to clients what I call a blended rate. And a blended rate means that if I'm doing a scene switcher position, you're paying for the scene switcher position. When I'm working on the strategy, then you're getting the strategy hourly rate. Does that make sense? So it all boils down to, at the very end of it, it's going to be your estimate for the live selling production. Cool? Good. Shout out to Ecamm who's in the comments. For those of you, yep, they're already dropping the link, so you're all good to go. Yep. All right, awesome. So that is the very, very first step. Don't get too hung up on this. Just plug in some numbers as far as like what makes sense to you. And if you're already good with your numbers as far as knowing like, okay, this is my hourly, these are the margins. If I'm hiring a contractor or a virtual assistant, then that works out just great. So what's changed on here? So if you had the link previously, what you had before was you had a virtual event and you had a recurring show. Those are two different tabs that we talked about in season 1. So if you want to learn more about that, go back to that episode or go back to the blog recap because that walks you through the process. For this show, we're going to take a look at the live selling producer. And so when I click on there, I've already outlined a couple of the big things that happen when you're working with a client and you're starting to think through the process of a live selling production. Cool? Got it. So the first part is going to be your discovery call. This is your time in understanding with the client in the pre-production phase, if you remember when we talked about that, it's your brainstorming. It's understanding what the look and feel and what is it that they want. This is where you're asking all the right questions. Oh, look at you. You guys are popping up. Oh, I love that you're in here. Okay, cool. Yay. I love, who is it? There's a bat, there's an alligator, and I think that's like a swan? I'm not quite sure. All right. So the first part is, like I said, the discovery call. This is where you have the brainstorm. This is where you have the conversation. The most important piece of this, especially if you're doing the live selling production, is to really ask, okay, what live shopping platform are you using? Have you worked with it before? Do you know how to set it up? If you don't know how to set it up, do you have an onboarding account manager from this live shopping platform that I can connect with? So if you recall in the last episode, I believe we had the producer's checklist. And there were a lot of things that I was showing you like behind the curtains. Like, these are the things that you should be asking. Tell me about the talent. Has the talent ever done video before? Are they like an Instagram influencer that has never been on camera? Because I would like to have an on camera, like a casting call to pretty much test them in knowing that they can deliver the pitch, the script, and all the different things. And P.S. by the way, if someone can type in the comments, like, remind me what they said in your workshop about working with influencers, because then I could expand on that a little bit more from you. I think it's really cool in the position that I have because I play kind of like 3 different roles. First, I'm an influencer. I'm a content creator myself. Second, I am a producer, and I produce this for other events. But then I'm also a trainer. So I work directly with global brands and I get their feedback on what it's like to work with other live production houses and what it's like to work with influencers. So any questions you have about that, by all means, hop in here. Okay, so discovery call, like I said, on average for me, that takes about 2 hours. And that's because I'm pretty locked in and loaded when it comes to knowing what are the questions that I'm going to ask. This over here, again, you could play around with this. And what will happen is that let's say I made this 3 hours. This is what we call in nerdy speak, there's a VLOOKUP, which means that as soon as I change this staff, right, from the drop-down menu, who it's going to be, as soon as I change that, it's going to change what the hourly rate is going to be. When it does that, then it has the total cost, and then it's going to start averaging it. So when you're working through this document, please do not muck up like this section. I think I pretty much locked it so that way you can't. So really, in all honesty, what you're doing is you're just going to mess around with the hours, and then you're going to insert and delete rows as far as like what makes sense for you and what doesn't make sense for you. Okay. All right. So discovery call, you guys are all clear with that. You understand what's happening in there. And so, as I said before, more often than not, it's going to be about 2 hours. Honestly, it could be a little bit longer depending on how well versed your client is when it comes to understanding live shopping. It also depends on whether or not your client understands what your role is as a strategist, as a producer, as a scene switcher. And so if you recall, when I first started this series, I was like, you got to lay it out like in your pitch deck. What is it like to work with you? And so more often than not, I would take that pitch deck and I would share that in the discovery call, because I'm very much telling you, these are my expectations. This is what I'm going to deliver, and this is what I expect from you as well. Good? All right. So next is going to be the actual run of show. When I work with clients, there's 2 ways to do this. The first one is the client takes a stab at developing a run of show on their own. If they're working with a live shopping platform, hopefully, yes, the live shopping platform gives the client already a run of show template, a couple of tips. Sometimes it's a part of their onboarding process. Remember when I told you about that in the previous episodes? Good. So more often than not, if it's option number 1 and the client is developing the run of show, then they send it back to me. And that's where I take a look at it and I start to understand, oh, okay, so you're going to have a promo code. You're going to have a giveaway. Oh, this is how many people you're going to have on the screen. That helps me understand what the flow of the show is going to be. Even when the client gives you the show, you as the producer, you're consulting them also at this point. You're coaching them and you're like, okay, so how are you transitioning from one show to the next? Some clients will give you the big picture but not fill in all the details. And so I generally say, if you could give me the transition statement so I, as the producer, know when we're shifting from one to the other, that's going to be really helpful. Some of your clients are going to be very chunked down, where they're so into the details, they're scripting it out like word for word. And then you got to have to like pull them back a little bit and say, hey, if you're working with an influencer that doesn't have like a teleprompter, you might want to ease up on your expectations. Does that make sense? Cool. So that's the first part of the run of show. The second piece of it is, hey, Stephanie, here's like my high level overview. Can you develop the run of show for me? And this is why I had shared with you the video script maker. With just a few clicks, I'm like, boom, 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 I could go ahead and develop a run of show once I understand what the key components of the live selling production is going to look like, sound like, feel like, all those different things. And then you're going to have probably email communications when you start talking about, let's review the run of show together. So I generally don't do this all via email. Sometimes I'll have a meeting where I'm like, okay, let's review this together. Let me explain to you my thought process. Let me explain to you what I've seen in other productions that we can all take as learnings in order to make sure that this production goes smooth. Oftentimes, I will also tell them, bring your talent as well into this meeting because I want to make sure that I'm bringing out the best in your guest. That's the reason you hired me. There's a certain level when you work with Stephanie Liu, like that's my signature style. This is what I'm going to do for you, and these are my expectations. Good so far? Okay. Oh, hello, Ambi. See, she dropped in here and she said, don't forget to tell us what was talked about. Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting over a cold. Okay, so hello, Ambi. Thank you so much for reminding me about that. Let me tell you what they said about what it was like to work with influencers. Of the brands that I spoke to, and these were like from countries of like Peru, Colombia, Argentina, and Chile, and Panama and Brazil. And they were all saying that sometimes when they're working with an influencer could be so super passionate about their audience. Maybe it's like health and wellness or whatever like their niche is. But the second that they hire an influencer to now talk about the brand and put on the hat of like, hey, I'm going to sell something. Yeah, I'm going to pitch you something. It's as if the spark, this is what we all agreed on. It's as if the spark with the influencer just kind of disappeared. And it's because of this. There's this imposter syndrome where the influencer feels like, oh gosh, I'm a selling salesman, and they feel dirty about it. And then because they have this impression of pitching or live selling, it negatively translates into the show. And then the brand, the clients was like, what happened? They're like, where's that cool personality that I saw on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever? Like, what happened to that person? And so oftentimes I tell them, when you're working with, excuse me, when you're working with influencers, they still need on-camera coaching. And I'm still getting over my cold. And so, hello, Ambi, I tell them that you still need to have on-camera coaching with your talent. And the thing that I told them too was this, is that more often than not, your talent really wants to do a good job for you, the client, because they know that if they do really well in this live selling production, you're going to be interested in working with them again. And so sometimes when I have the client, the influencer, and myself, all three of us on a phone call, and I'll ask questions, the influencer's like, yeah, I know how to do that, and yeah, it's great. And it's because they don't want to disappoint the client, and so they're not as upfront. They're not really being honest, I would say. And so sometimes as a producer, you have to pick up on those nonverbal cues. And so when something like that happens, hello, Ambi, I would actually reach out to the client and be like, is it okay if I get some one-on-one time with your client or with your talent? Just because it feels like she had a question to ask, but she might be more comfortable asking me when the brand isn't in the room, right? It's kind of like it gives the influencer, the host, an out to just be honest and forthcoming, so that way I could openly and honestly help them. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. Welcome, Mike Alton, to the show. Look at you. All of you came through. Mike Alton's here. Give me a second. Oh, see, I was supposed to mute that. Okay, so I think that's really helpful to know as far as putting that into your strategy and knowing that as a producer, like you could have it like you could be like this with the client, but you also have to be like this when it comes to the influencer and the host. Like they have to be able to trust you, and that's like it's a soft skill that you need to have as a producer. And I don't think we even really talked about that on the show, so I'm telling you that now. All right, so you are going to review the run of show with the client, and then the next piece is going to be the tech rehearsal. And as you saw in the tech rehearsal, I think you already have it in the freebies. The tech rehearsal is, and I told this to the room, I was like, if you have an influencer, a talent that says, no, I don't need to do a tech rehearsal, I'm too busy, fire them on this spot. Like, I don't even mind saying that, because I'm very much like, look, if I have people doing the promotion, the copy, the graphics, and all these different things, and if you're not in this like 100%, if you're leaving 1% of doubt on the table, then you're putting the show at risk. And so I usually don't pass go, don't collect $200 if they don't do a tech rehearsal. So I make sure that it's a part of the process. One of the things that you most likely hear when people talk about tech checklists is like audio, video, Ethernet, and all that other stuff. One thing that kind of surprised me, right, was I had an influencer or a talent that had like a 15-year-old laptop. And I was like, oh crap, like, do you even have like the video capabilities on your laptop? And I think it was at that point where I reached out to Doc on Slack. I was like, Doc, like, what are the minimum video qualifications that you need to have or requirements that you need to have on a laptop? And so that's when we discovered, like, holy heck, like this was like an ancient laptop. And we ended up having to like send her over to a co-working spot to make sure that she had like up-to-date technology. Okay, so I'm going to add that there for you. The checklist in and of itself, it's already in the freebie, so you're good to go. And then let me take a look at the comments real quick. Yeah, Gabe is saying, I love a passionate person who sells so easily, the person who can sell water to a mermaid. Yeah, for sure. Like we talked a lot about how oftentimes in a run of show, since we're still on review run of show, sometimes clients will put something on there that says, tell us about how you discovered our brand. And then the influencer says to me, like, oh yeah, I could totally do that. I'll just tell this story. And I'm like, I kind of want to hear it a little bit more. Like, how are you actually going to explain that journey, right? Because it's not like you just went to the store and you bought it. Like, what was your actual decision? What was the problem that you were trying to overcome, and how did this product actually solve it? So this is like the marketing hat that comes on too. And that part in the workshop they found very helpful, because they were like, that's true. Because again, when the influencer is like so great on their preferred social media platform, and then you bring them into a live selling arena, all of a sudden that spark disappears, they get nervous. Other things in the run of show that I would love for you to remind your clients as well as the talent is to pretty much put like guardrails as far as how long they should be talking about each section. Because it's one thing just to know like, oh, what are the key topics that we should be talking about? But it's also important, dude, you guys, I'm like trying to run through this without dying. So you have your key components, but you want to put guardrails in there as far as like, hey, talk about this for like a good 2 to 3 minutes. And then talk about this for 2 to 3 minutes, and talk about this for 2 to 3 minutes. And I find that to be super duper helpful, because if they don't know that, because talent is just like, oh, okay, gosh, here's a run of show that I have to do, they're not realizing that sometimes they could burn through the segments within like 10 minutes. I mean, there was this one point where I was working in a production and on the back channel, I was talking to the client and I was like, so talent just went through 75% of the run of show and we still have 20 minutes to fill in. And that's a really, really big problem because if your client, has this partnership with a live shopping platform, not Facebook Live or Facebook Live, it's free, right? Facebook Live shopping is free. But if they were on a live shopping platform, they usually have to purchase buckets of time. And on top of that, they have to purchase, for some of them, how many viewers actually show up. Then there's an extra added fee for how many replay viewers it's there. Then there might actually be an extra fee for just housing the replay video on there and letting it live there in perpetuity. So there's a lot of investment that happens into it. And oftentimes I find that if an influencer hasn't really rehearsed or understood how long each segment should be, they could fly through it pretty quickly. And there's only so much that I could do as a producer, right? Good. So the comments are lighting up right now. Take One Tech is in the house. Hey, so good to see you. And yes, reminder, I'm hosting an exclusive panel next week with these live shopping platforms. And they're going to give you more insight as far as like what are they looking for in a producer? What are their clients looking for in a live selling producer? How do you get started? How do you learn? How do you sign up for a demo account? All of that we're going to be covering next week. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you go to ecamm.tv/live selling and go through that. Cool. All right. Let's see here. This is so cute. No dying allowed. Okay. I know, yeah. See, someone's like, get her a big glass of water. I'm doing the best that I can. Quick pause real quick. But it's like, I have like this little sinus congestion. And I find that when I start talking, I want to like cough every now and then. But oh well. Okay. Ooh, Unquestionable TV says extremely valuable and underrated information. I was thinking about this, right? Because I was like, dude, every episode is like a masterclass. And when Unquestionable TV shows up and Gabe Leal and Mike Alton, this is really like your power hour. This is your hour to ask questions because I don't hold anything back. I tell you what clients say, I tell you what influencers say, and I tell you pretty much what the live shopping platforms have to say as well. Good? All right. So review the run of show. Be very diligent because here's the thing. When you're working on these productions, you are the executive producer. You're the one that produced this. You collaborated with the client. And when you build that trust, right? When they know like, okay, working with Stephanie Liu, it has like a built-in safety net. She's going to make sure that everything has like the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, there's just checks and balances, and it's pretty much good to go, right? Love it. Kevin Cox says, hey, has everyone remembered to hit that like button? Seriously. I'm dropping some gold for you today. All right, cool. So you do the tech rehearsal, and then the next piece is going to be the live shopping setup. So this is really going to, you could delete this row if you need to, if it doesn't make sense for you. But more often than not, if the client is working with an onboarding manager for the live shopping platform, they're going to help them already set up like the CSV file, the Shopify integration, and all those different things. Yeah. You just have to make sure that the live shopping platform you're able to connect to it via Ecamm using a custom RTMP, right? You also want to know that when you do this, can the talent, are they savvy enough to have two tabs open where they'll have like the Ecamm interview tab open and then let's say the live shopping platform open where they could view the comments? Or can they just have like the live production on their phone so they can view the comments? Obviously you want to have it muted so you don't have that echo effect going on, right? So that's one way to approach the live shopping setup. The second approach is honestly, if you really want to bulletproof your production house, is to know how to personally set up a live shopping event for your client. And so, for example, if I were to walk you through LiveScale TV, I would pretty much say, okay, so where is your e-commerce store stored? Is it on a Shopify integration? Okay, you're going to need a CSV file, and this is how you hook it up. That's because I sat through the demo, right? That's because I have a really good relationship with the team over there and I could ask these questions. What's the resolution? What's the output? I also know that if I were to do an event on LiveScale, they have a registration page, and on that registration page, you have an opportunity to put a graphic on there. So what does that graphic look like, sound like, if you wanted to have some audio on it? How soon can we start promoting it? Is there a countdown timer? It's like I know all the different nuances for it, and I could give additional constructive feedback and ideas to add to the imagination of the client. So if you're doing it, cool. Just make sure that you have enough time slotted for you to set that up. And maybe that's you, or there's someone else on your team that could do that for you. Here's the thing is that if you are doing it, your best bet is to do it the very first time, create a documented SOP, standard operating procedure, document that process, even do like you have Ecamm, right? So just film yourself going through that process, do the screencast, and then have your virtual assistant or whoever you're gonna have do it, transcribe that using Descript, and then now you have an SOP. Dang, dude, I share you guys with everything. That is so much fun. Good. Unquestionable TV had a question and goes, best place to find more information on RTMP integration with Ecamm. So generally, Unquestionable TV, when you're working with a live shopping platform, they will give you what the stream key and the stream key URL are. And then when you're in Ecamm, you know how you select the destination, you're going to put custom RTMP, and then you're just going to copy and paste that into the fields. Good. If Katie, Caleb, or whoever, or Paul even, if you want to drop that help article link into the show notes, then that would be grateful, or the comments. That would be awesome. All right, so live shopping setup, 2 ways to approach it. Think of your process thoroughly. Talk Virtual is saying, yes, SOPs are very important. SOPs are very important if you definitely want to scale your live video production house. It also buttons up what it's like to work with you. Yeah, it's not like you're trying to cobble things together, but you're very precise in how you always consistently produce a successful live stream, which is why I'm telling you, Talk Virtual, because you're watching Showrunner, there's so many templates and assets that we've already given you to get you guys like, boom. When you're at the starting line, you're like, boof, you're out there. You're like Usain Bolt. Boom! I need a gif of that. All right, cool. So the next piece then is going to be your live stream setup. This could be done by the producer. This could actually also be done by your scene switcher. So first, let me talk about like when you're setting up the stream, right? You should already have that conversation as far as what are the graphics, the overlays that you want to create. And when you have that, right, and you have the run of show, then I generally create those scenes together. When I have that, okay, let me back up. When I know what assets I need to create as far as the overlays, and more often than not, I actually create them in Canva. I share that link, a viewing link, over to the client so they could proof it. Proofing means like, okay, you saw how I put the influencer's name, you saw the title that I put there, you're confirming that the promo code that I have there is all correct. Once they sign off on that, then that's when I start building out the scenes. And that's like one of the things that I love most about Ecamm Live is I could have the different scenes. So I could have the countdown timer, the solo screen with the lower third. Then I could have another scene for when the person talks about the giveaway. Then I could have another scene for it's like the demo video of how to buy on that live shopping platform. Yep, cool. Oh, Talk Virtual says I love all the templates. Yes! Got to give a shout out over to Katie for making sure that I was always buttoned up on all of those. Yep. Ecamm is saying that smart sharing is very easy in Canva. And I love it because when you start working with clients and you're doing multiple shows with them, it's easy for me just to like drop down, make a copy, duplicate, boom, next thing. Because the countdown timer most likely isn't going to change. The giveaway might change just a little bit. The promo code might be exclusive to that particular influencer and then the influencer's lower third. That's pretty much how my brain goes. Dude, I'm like, I have it all locked in there. All right, so you do the live stream setup. Then you walk through the client on that. You're pretty much you're all set. You're good to go. Even in the live streaming setup, you might even want to move this in the tech rehearsal if you wanted to. Up to you. You could show in the tech rehearsal when you're working with the client. Remember how I said you want to show them, you want to show the talent how to log in into Ecamm interview. So remember when I showed you Tech Torah and how he has a specific landing page with tips about audio, video, and lighting. Those are the same things that you can customize for yourself. You could even have like an e-webinar or even just like a short 1-minute video of like, this is how you connect to the Ecamm interview via your Chrome browser. If you need to connect the right microphone and the right camera via your Chrome browser, here's a link, right? So you do all of that stuff. Kevin Cox. And they're off. I know you guys are doing amazing. I'm super excited for you. P.S. By the way, if you're ever working on your next live selling production pitch and you need a second opinion, hit your girl up because I love pitching. I love pitching. All right. Good. Yeah. The crew's saying, and then you could do a walkthrough in Ecamm with the client to show them what it looks like. Exactly. This is where you wow them, right? This is where you have like your stream deck already set up with your different scenes. Oftentimes I would even say like, have you thought about like adding music to this? That could be other extra add-ons. You could say, well, I have this full library from Epidemic Sound, or hey, I have like this full library from Soundstripe. Do whatever it is that you want to do. You'll also probably educate them on royalty-free music. You got this. You guys are freaking pros. All right, so you do the live stream setup and then you have the live stream production. Notice how in the actual live stream production, I put like an hour for the executive producer. That's pretty much like, that would be like me showing up to just be like, I just want to make sure that we show up on time, that at 3 minutes before we actually go live, you have the countdown timer running. Good, 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 good. But it's the producer who's usually there an hour and a half for the production, which means if the show starts at 11 a.m., the producer is going to be in the Ecamm interview room, right, at 10:30, making sure that the scenes are all there, making sure that when the talent shows up, that the talent is still in the same spot that they were for the tech rehearsal, yeah? Like no surprises. And if there is any surprises, then I'm like, okay, well, let's go through your speedtest.net. Let's go through your audio, your video, all the different things. Good? All right. Let's take a look at the comments here because Mike Alton is saying, actually working on a series of demo overlays to show clients the power of Ecamm for a virtual event. Yes, in fact, I'm going to be working on another live shopping workshop virtually. And I was told that the platform that they're going to be using is Hopin. And I was like, sweet, that's awesome because Ecamm Virtual Cam allows me to do all the things that I want to do as far as customizing the look and feel, and I think it'll be a really great teaser, right? Oh gosh, okay, I have to tell you this because my brain is like, Stephanie, you should tell them this. But let me tell you, when you're doing a workshop and you're teaching what it is that you do, live selling, live video production, remote live video production, you want to make sure that you go all out on how your presentation looks. You want to make sure it stands out from the other speakers that are out there. So show them what Ecamm can do. Show them the different scenes. Show them the sound effects. Show them the transitions. You know, get fancy with it because when you do that, it's like, oh my gosh, they sit there and they're like, I didn't even know that you could do that because most people are so used to being stuck in an MS Teams or a Zoom meeting that there's just one camera. And so when you show them that, then they're like, okay, I want to work with you because you've already teased them as far as like what's possible and they may not have the bandwidth to build it out themselves, but they know that they could work with you. Good, good, good. All right. So let's see here. Everyone's loving Mike Alton's comment. So Mike Alton, awesome. Let us know if you need anything. Ecamm saying, yes, show up with Ecamm. As I told Anna and Fulgens, Ecamm helps me flex. Yeah, like I go all out. When I go into pitches, so one of the other things that I love, and I think I told you this before, was in Ecamm, I will create a separate profile for every single one of my shows, but I also create a separate profile for every single one of my clients. So it makes it easy for me when I can say like, oh yeah, I worked with a CPG brand before. This is how it looks like. And I keep it in there. So I love that versus having one profile and multiple folders because then it's not as cluttered. So that's like a pro tip for you right there. All right, so we're 40 minutes into this game. I've given you pretty much the live streaming estimate pretty much here at the point. I added the live selling producer in there. As I mentioned before, you're going to choose from the drop down menu whatever makes the most sense in here. Then you're going to put in the hours. If there's any fixed cost in here, let's say you're outsourcing graphics to Alicia Way, or you're outsourcing graphics to Bradley Vincent like we do sometimes, then you're going to put a fixed cost in here. Let's say it's like $500, whatever. Put in a note in here, and then it'll go ahead and include that into your cost over here, okay? So just make sure that you have that in there, and it makes it super duper helpful. Maybe you're even throwing an extra seat into your Speedify because you're doing that, or maybe you're also going to throw in the repurposing, whatever your repurposing is going to be, add another line. Put that fixed cost in there, but that's pretty much going to give you a heads up as far as like, okay, for a live selling production, for one event, this is what it looks like. My tip for you is that when you're working with clients, more often than not, if they're going to work with you once, it's probably going to be a lot more expensive than if they bought like a pre-packaged deal with you. Like you and I were going to work together strategically over the next 4 live selling productions that you do. Because what I will tell you is that most brands that I talk to, when they're planning a live selling production, they don't only want to do it once. The first one is always going to be the test. They test, refine, test, refine. And at that point, they're going to have those key learnings. And if you're holding their hand the entire way, then it makes it a lot helpful. Good? So here's another comment from Mike Alton. He's saying, right, after a couple of times using agency accelerated overlays to demo, which are okay, I'm doing a new profile and Stream Deck folder that goes all out to demo. I love it. Okay, cool. Look, we've got stressed out, stress-free hopping in. So good to see you. All right, so this is in the freebies. If you haven't checked your email yet, search for Ecamm because Ecamm always sends out the link to all of the freebies, all of the templates. This is also included in there, and I know that because I already see a couple of you in here in the doc playing around with it. Talk Virtual is saying signing up clients for events is a great idea. Okay, cool. So having said that, let's go back over here. What questions do you have? What is it that I need to know? Because I pretty much only have like 5 minutes left. I want to cut it a little bit early today just because I need to make sure that I packed up everything in my suitcase. My suitcase is over there. So to make sure I don't like forget everything. Ecamm Live is saying ecamm.tv/live selling for all the freebies. Get it over there. This is the final episode. Next week, we are going to do the live panels with a few of the live shopping platforms that I mentioned before. So we've got Uscreen, we've got Firework, we've got livescale.tv, right? We've got Livecom coming to the table as well. Kirk Nugent is going to be coming in to talk about Amazon Live. So we've got like a full house. And this is going to be a really great opportunity for you because again, you could choose your niche. You could be like, hey, you know what? I am the Amazon Live producer for brands. Brands, you need someone to do this. Awesome. That's great. Oh, you need an influencer. Okay, let me find an influencer for you. Now you're like doing the talent. You're doing the casting. Or like, hey, I could be the producer and the talent for you. Hey, that's awesome. Or let's say there is an Amazon Live influencer that really wants to step up their live streaming game. You can coach them, or you could produce it for them and get a cut of the sales or the commissions, whatever it is that you want to do. You could go all in on LiveScale if you wanted to. You could go all in on Facebook Live Shopping, TikTok, or Instagram, or YouTube. Whatever your forte is, start carving out your niche. Yeah? Start carving out your niche because let's be honest, in the very, very first episode when I was telling you about the evolution of live shopping, right? I've heard rumbles as far as Target and Walmart now competing to have their own live shopping platforms. I'm now hearing about grocery store chains, retailers launching their own live stream shopping channels or even apps, right? So there is a huge, huge demand for producers. What I'll also even tell you is that when I was having dinner last night, 2 people approached me and they said, Stephanie, do you speak Spanish? I was like, I don't speak Spanish, And they're like, oh man, because like live shopping is like really, really blowing up in Latin America. And the traditional production houses don't really understand the nuances of live streaming. And if they had like a Spanish speaking version of you, then that would be really helpful. And they're like, well, let me just send you some referrals anyway. And I was like, you know what? I've got Jillian and I've got Anna who I can lean and ask questions to. But for sure, if this is something that you want to launch in a specific region, in a specific language, all those things, please come talk to me. Book some consulting time because I could help you build out this book of business if you want to. Because there's certain things that I can't do, right? I can't be traveling all the time as much as I want to. Great. Okay, so let's see. And Questionable TV is like, OMG, how do I retroactively get the freebie emails? See, Katie is so nice because Katie's going to say that you could just email them over at marketing@ecamm.com. Good. Ecamm will be sending another email next week, so you'll get all the goodies. Ooh, here's a good long one. Let's read this one. Do you have clients that want to have a production live stream out to LinkedIn? Yes! I always seem to have a problem connecting via Restream. Yes, I have clients from the C-level executives that want to host their own shows. They want to build their own personal brands. They want to build up their authority, so they want to leverage LinkedIn events and live stream into those events. It's also really cool because your sales team can see who watched a live stream on LinkedIn and make those connections and start building those relationships, start driving some sales if at all possible. Dude, there's so much that you could do. Let me tell you. I mean, oftentimes on Showrunner, I'm like, there's only so much that I could tell you, but I've pretty much done everything in that sense. Yeah, I've done LinkedIn exclusively for clients. I've done annual shareholder meetings for clients. The reason why Showrunner for this season focused primarily on live shopping is because that's the trend that we're seeing. With more people shopping online, we're seeing some amazing things that are happening in China. I was once talking to a client, and the client said, for our very first live stream, we sold more product in a day than we usually do in an entire month. Can you imagine that? That is crazy. And they're like, now we want to do it again. So there's definitely a lot of time to do that. Oh, thank you, Paul. He's like, the only way to attend next week's panel discussion is to register ecamm.tv/live selling. So you have to register in advance to get the link to go into that. Good. Unquestionable TV saying, thank you for all the work and the assistance. Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, cool. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments. I'll probably see them on the plane as I'm flying back home, and we'll go from there. But thank you so much for being a part of Showrunner Season 2. My whole purpose, Katie and I, when we were talking about this, was like, how do we help the Ecamm fam evolve their skills, right? Because when you think about it, sometimes people, they find out about Ecamm because they just want to live stream for themselves. But we're seeing that this can evolve and you could build your book of business. Now you could become a live streaming production house. Now you could become an on-camera coach. There's so much that you can do, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. Ecamm pretty much powers it all, okay? So thank you so much for your time. Love you all, and I will see you next week. So make sure, make sure you sign up ecamm.tv/live selling. Yay! Okay, friends, I will see you later. Thank you so much. I'm going to go find myself a bottle of water, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, love you. Okay, bye.